Live on TV1 with our lovely program, which is Go Green, or the TV1 Go Green. And as we always tell you, we are here to teach you, we are here to show you the different ways on how we can protect our lovely environment. And today, as we start, we are celebrating, this very week we celebrated the National Environment Day. And we shall go directly to our news, starting with our headlines, where we celebrated the World Environment Day was celebrated in Baku, and then we shall have the celebrations of the World Environment Day, which were here in Uganda, specifically tackling the Equity Bank. And then we shall also have the special message which Charlie Hogg gave, directly looking at how we are supposed to respect our environment. And then we shall have another special message which came directly from the UN Secretary. And then finally, we shall have the official explanation of our environment, or of our National Environment Day. And now directly we shall go to our environment news, whereby the National Environment Day was celebrated in Azerbaijan, that was in Baku, and we hosted the official global commemoration on the date of June, in partnership with the United Nations. This high profile, or this event brought a very big number of high profile people, which brought the great things from different countries and from the different nations. The theme of the celebration was inspired by nature for the climate for the future. The main venue was had a lot of ceremonies which took place at the iconic Haida Alevai Center, gathering government officials, UNEP leaders, which also had the executive director Inga Anderson and the climate advocates. The public exhibits had an open air exhibition which showcased nature, themed art and creative handcrafts from the partner organizations. They also had the recycling initiatives which took place at the city, and ran a special book exchange initiative where citizens could bring in the used paper to receive children's book in return. The cultural highlights also had ceremonies featured in cultural performances, including a special acoustic debate of an unrealized song by the K-pop artist Markley. And then now we shall ask our producer to take us directly to what happened in Baku, that is in Azerbaijan. And as our producer takes us there, we had a lot of celebrations whereby the different speakers had to make sure they give us how we can protect, how we can love, and how we can give back to our lovely environment. A lot of times we as humans forget that it is the environment that has given us everything that we need to know, everything that we use, that goes for the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, and the food that we eat. The different speakers made sure they bring out all the information, explaining to the people, explaining to the press, and explaining to the world on how exactly our environment gives us all the things that we really need. And not forgetting that every time you temper, every time you destroy, or every time you hurt our lovely environment, it always fights back. And in fighting back, that is when you see the floods, that is when you see the bad air, that is when you see the heat coming so hard.
As each year goes by, we celebrate World Environment Day with so much hope that things will really change. But as time goes on, I feel the only thing that's really going to bring the change we all want is a change in me, is a change in all of us. Only when human consciousness changes will we have the environment we want. When we change, the world will change. When we change, the environment will change. Our beautiful world is amazing, and all the parts and processes of each part of our world affect each other. The living systems theory says that our world, our main
A powerful momentum is building here in Baku as Azerbaijan officially hosts World Environment Day 2026 under the global banner inspired by nature for climate for our future. Today's high-level gathering at the Heydar Aliyev Center is a direct call for rapid collective action. The political will on the ground is clear. In an address delivered by Mukhtar Babayev, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev highlighted that hosting this global platform recognizes the country's active role in climate diplomacy. The President directly addressed regional challenges, pointing to critical water scarcity and the dropping levels of the Caspian Sea, while reaffirming the push toward creating green energy zones in Karabakh and eastern Zangezur.
Water scarcity constitutes a serious concern not only for Azerbaijan but for the entire region. The decline in the level of the Caspian Sea, approaching historic minimum level recorded over the past 2 centuries, is a clear indication of the severity of the problem. The goal of the clean environment and a green growth country has been identified as one of the 5 key national priorities for Azerbaijan's socio-economic development through 2030.
This ties directly into the global urgency. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also addressed the forum, warning that carbon emissions must be slashed immediately through a rapid, cost-effective transition to renewable energy. UN Habitat Executive Director Ana Claudia Rosbach echoed the call for action today, noting that sustainable urban planning and greener spaces are absolutely vital to protecting communities and making our cities truly climate resilient moving forward.
Our cities must evolve in harmony with the natural systems that sustain life, calling for a decisive shift toward inclusive, affordable and climate resilient homes for all. We can transform our cities into engines of climate action and inclusive prosperity.
This event cements Azerbaijan's growing role in global environmental policy, building right on the momentum and legacies of COP29 and the recent World Urban Forum.
Well, first of all, big congratulations to Azerbaijan for hosting World Environment Day 2026. We are enormously grateful for the leadership that Azerbaijan has shown from the beginning of when Azerbaijan put up its hand and said, we will host COP29. And then Azerbaijan has really stepped into leadership under the leadership of His Excellency, the President. What I think about this day, just take a look around. It's fabulous. And this is a voice from Azerbaijan to the entire world. Act for nature, act for climate, act now. And make sure that what we do today is good for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We really congratulate Azerbaijan for this extraordinary leadership.
First of all, World Environmental Day is one of the globally most important days, especially in the area of climate changes and needing concrete actions towards positive results. Here in Baku, it is important that lots of world leaders and other stakeholders, representatives of the UN, NGOs, gather together and define what we really need to do.
With discussions wrapping up inside, the focus now turns to implementing these solutions on the ground as nations look to turn these high-level commitments into real, visible climate action. And that's all for now. This is Leila Rahimli with Zahrab Shirinov.
Those were the celebrations that took place in Baku, that was in Azerbaijan, on the 5th of June 2026. And I have again to remind you that the World Environment Day was established by the United Nations, and that was during the Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment in the 1972. The very first celebration took place a year later on June 5th, and that was in the 1970s. 1973, and this has been celebrated annually. Not forgetting here in Africa, Uganda, we also had celebrations, and this today we're going to highlight for you how Equity Bank here in Uganda had its celebrations of the National Environment Day. Today, and that was by Equity Bank here in Uganda. The key national and global environment days for the 2026 highlight critical ecosystems and the climate action. I have to remind you that this was celebrated this very week on the 5th of June 2026, and it is the largest and focusing on the nature-based solutions, the local observations, and that is in Uganda and globally to continue. And as I told you, this normally happens annually, and right away we shall take you to the different messages that the different dignitaries or big people had to give out, that is specifically on the environment. And we shall have a message that Charlie Hogg gave out specifically on the National Environment Day.
Welcome to World Environment Day. As each year goes by, we celebrate World Environment Day with so much hope that things will really change. But as time goes on, I feel the only thing that's really going to bring the change we all want is a change in me, is a change in all of us. Only when human consciousness changes will we have the environment we want. When we change, the world will change. When we change, the environment will change. Our beautiful world is amazing, and all the parts and processes of each part of our world affect each other. The living systems theory says that our world, our amazing world, is self-organizing. They change, they connect, they grow, they're systematic, all the environmental systems of our world. And we realize more and more that each part of the environment affects other parts. But that's just one living system, all our environmental parts and processes. The other living system is our thought system. And our collective thoughts are feeding this material world, our environment. And so when our collective thoughts are filled with greed, we have this materialistic culture which is destroying our environment. When our collective thought system is full of ego, we just have self-interest. We use our beautiful world just for our temporary desires. We don't think of the future or the effect on others. When our collective thought systems are full of anger, we create so much conflict and differences in our world. So the unseen world is our thoughts and our feelings. The seen world is our material world and the environment. The unseen world is flowing into this environment. So the pollution is really our human greed, our human ego, our human anger, and much more. And this is why really, as we go more and more, we realize that this is where the real environmental change has to happen. That I have to take full responsibility for each thought. Because my thoughts are creating an atmosphere. And this atmosphere of collective human thinking is polluting our environment. And this is why this year, let's celebrate World Environment Day by taking responsibility to create clean thoughts, peaceful thoughts, loving thoughts. How do I do that? If I can suggest that you practice meditation. Meditation is the method to reconnect with my authentic, original self as a spiritual being. And the more I create thoughts around who I am, the more I experience who I am, automatically I create quality thoughts. Thoughts that are positive, thoughts that are benevolent, thoughts that are peaceful, thoughts that are loving. And this energy will then flow into our environment. And we'll not only have respect for ourselves, we will have respect for others, no matter how different they may be, and we will have respect for the environment. We can only rebuild the respect for the environment when I rebuild the respect for myself, and collectively humanity rebuilds our sense of self-respect. So let's celebrate World Environment Day this year with really taking full responsibility for the sort of thoughts I create. And these thoughts, let them flow into the world and see their effect on the environment of our beautiful planet. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Today, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for urgent climate action to protect people, nature, and the future generations from record-breaking heat to polluted air, ecosystem degradation, and biodiversity loss. The impacts of climate change are already being felt around the world. The Secretary General urges governments, businesses, communities to accelerate climate solutions, including cutting emissions, expanding renewable energy, reducing methane pollution, and protecting nature and supporting vulnerable communities through climate finance and adaptation. This is the moment to act. This is our environment, and this is our future. Let us go directly to the message that the UN Secretary General gave to us.
Environment Day, warning signals are everywhere. The past 11 years have been the 11 hottest on record. And the damage goes far beyond rising temperatures, from polluted air to degraded land, collapsing ecosystems and vanishing biodiversity. Harming health, destroying homes, and deepening hunger. The world is heading for a temporary overshoot above 1.5 degrees. Every fraction of a degree brings greater harm, especially to the most vulnerable. Our task is to make that overshoot as small, as short, and as safe as possible, and rapidly bring temperatures back down. That means slashing emissions, accelerating a just transition away from fossil fuels and towards renewables, the only sustainable path to lower costs and to real energy security. Cutting methane, one of the fastest, cheapest ways to limit near-term warming. Protecting forests, land and seas, helping communities adapt to the devastating impacts already here. And it means fulfilling climate finance promises to developing countries to save lives, protect livelihoods and strengthen economies. This is the moment to act for our environment and for our future.
And I have again to remind you that this very week we celebrated our National Environment Day, which was initially started by the UN. or the United Nations. And a lot of countries celebrated it in different ways. That calls for all African, all continents, I should say, how to celebrate this. What does that teach you? Is there is a lot that we have to look up to. There is a lot of things that we have to fight to give back to our environment. So we shall go for a short break, and when we come back, we shall show you, or we shall teach you, why we had to celebrate our Environment Day.
Brings a new beginning and a new day. We bring you the news that matters when it matters. From international headlines to the stories shaping our communities at home.
Because where is my ocean? I'm entitled to that ocean.
With expert analysis, in-depth conversations, and deep dives into the issues behind the headlines. We don't just tell you the news, we break it down. Start your mornings informed, prepared, and ahead of the day. New day, clear news, real insight, a smarter start. Weekdays, 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV1. Are you ready to build real skills for a better future? Tune in to Skilling Uganda, the show that empowers, educates, and transforms lives. From hands-on vocational skills to expert guidance and real success stories, Skilling Uganda connects you to opportunities that matter. Every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Don't just stream it, skill it. Skilling Uganda, shaping Uganda's future, one skill at a time, only on TV1. See the difference.
You are welcome from that very short break, and we are right away this week. We as TV1 celebrating the national environment, which is a global cause, which is what each and everyone looks at. And now right away, I'll let you know the different bodies which are in different countries that hope or overtake the environment. And right away, starting with our very own country, that is Uganda, we have what we call NEMA, that is the National Environment Management Authority. That is what governs the environment here in Uganda. And then we have what we call the UNEP, that is the United Nations Environment Program. That is the leading global authority headquarter, which is in Nairobi, Kenya, that sets the global environment agenda and coordinates the UN efforts. And then we have the IPCC, that is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. That that is the UN body also that assesses the science related to climate change and providing governments with the scientific data. And then we have the IUCN, that is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and it is a global organization that focuses on nature conservation and the sustainable use of natural resources. We also have in the United States, we also have the EPA, that is the Environmental Protection Agency, that protects human health and environment by writing and enforcing regulations based on the laws passed by the Congress. We also have in the United Kingdom what we call the DEFRA, that is the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. It is responsible for environmental policy along with the localized bodies like the Environmental Agency. In China, we have what we call the MEE, that is the Ministry of Ecology and Environment. It handles pollution control, ecological conservation, and the climate policies. In the European Union, we have what we call the EEA, that is the European Union Agency. It provides sound, independent information on environment to the EU member states. And there are very many, but we chose to specifically today show you or give you some of these ones that we have named. And right away we shall go back to why we are celebrating the National Environment Day. Like I told you, it was started by the United Nations, and that was in the 1972. And the first celebration started a year later, and that was in the 1973 in the month of June. And right now we shall take you to the video that explains why we celebrate the National Environment Day globally.
The planet doesn't argue, it doesn't negotiate, it sends signals. And today, those signals are no longer warnings. They are consequences unfolding in real time. For decades, humanity treated climate change like a distant chapter in the future, something that would affect tomorrow, not today. Something that could be delayed, negotiated, or solved later when technology improves. But in 2026, that illusion has collapsed, because the Earth is no longer quiet. Across continents, something is happening at once. Rising seas are swallowing entire coastlines. Heat waves are breaking historical limits year after year. Wildfires are burning longer, faster, and more uncontrollably than ever before. And glaciers that stood for thousands of years are disappearing within a single human lifetime. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is a system under pressure. And it is sending one unified message. The balance is breaking. We are now standing at the edge of one of the most critical thresholds in Earth's modern history, the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit. A number once treated as a warning line has now become a repeated reality. But what most people do not understand is that climate systems do not respond gently. They respond in chains. A small increase in temperature does not create a small problem. It triggers cascading instability across every system that supports life. Rainfall patterns collapse. Agricultural cycles fail. Heat becomes deadly rather than just seasonal. Oceans absorb more energy, making storms stronger. Ice melts faster, raising sea levels in unpredictable ways. And ecosystems, nature's invisible support system, begin to break down quietly, long before human systems even feel the impact. So, this is no longer climate change as a concept. This is climate change as a system redesign of the planet itself. World Environment Day, established by the United Nations back in 1972, was created as a platform for awareness. But in 2026, it has become something far more serious. It is now a global moment of confrontation, hosted in Azerbaijan, in the city of Baku. This year's World Environment Day arrives at a time when environmental stability is no longer guaranteed. And the theme says everything. Inspired by nature, for climate, for our future. This is not just a slogan. It is a survival framework. It carries 3 truths that cannot be ignored anymore. 1. Nature is not separate from us. It is the system that sustains us. 2. Climate action is not optional. It is now survival critical. And 3. The future is not guaranteed. It is being decided in this generation. If history is honest, humanity did not fail because it lacked knowledge. It failed because it delayed action. And that delay was built on 3 forces: delay, distraction, and denial. We delayed because we believed there was always more time. We distracted ourselves with economic growth and short-term progress. And at times, we denied the scale of what was unfolding, because accepting it demanded uncomfortable change. But nature does not operate on belief. It operates on physics, and physics does not negotiate. We said 1.5 degrees Celsius was the limit. Now we are crossing it. And every fraction of a degree does not add a small problem. It accelerates every existing one. The crisis is no longer ahead of us. It is inside our present reality. But this is not the end of the story, because even in crisis, Earth sends another signal. A quieter signal, but a powerful one. A signal of transformation. Across the world, a silent revolution is already underway. Solar energy is expanding faster than any energy source in history. Wind power is reshaping national electricity grids. Electric mobility is replacing fossil fuel dependence. Cities are being redesigned to reduce heat, pollution, and waste. And forests, once destroyed, are being restored. Rivers are being cleaned. Ecosystems are slowly recovering. This is not symbolic change. This is structural change. We are entering a phase where sustainable systems are becoming more efficient than destructive ones. And when that happens, change does not slow down. It accelerates. At the center of every solution lies a truth humanity forgot. Nature is not weak. Nature is not secondary. Nature is the original survival system of this planet. For billions of years, it has maintained balance without human intervention. Forests do not just grow, they store carbon at scale. Oceans do not just exist, they regulate planetary temperature. Biodiversity is not decoration.
Told you the balance is breaking, my people, and as we celebrate the National Environment Day, or as we celebrated it, this is my message to you, my people. Every time you throw the trash, you destroy the environment, just know the repercussions are going to be worse. So what are you supposed to do? As we celebrate the National Environment Day this week, let all of us put it on ourselves to fight and help each other, to fight and clean our water bodies. Let us clean our own communities. Let us clean our own homes and everywhere. Let us plant trees when we have a chance. Plant flowers. Do anything that you can to make sure that you give back to your environment. We as TV1, every single Sunday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. we shall make sure to be here to teach you the right things that you can be doing to fight and make sure that you give back to your environment, because it is this environment that has given us each and everything that we have, and we should also make sure we do the best as we give back to our dear environment. And our lovely people, we as TV1, we teach you, we show you, and we make sure that we give you the best of what you are supposed to be doing. But use your ears and do the actions of the right thing that you are supposed to do, because if you don't do it, you'll suffer the consequences. And I have to remind our lovely people that every Sunday, make sure you tune in to watch this lovely program that we call TV1 Go Green, so that you also give back to your lovely environment, that you learn and get simple lessons that you can always use in your homes and in the communities and in the schools that you people are in. And have to remind abantu baffe ab'Nansana, ab'Ekabumbi, n'ab'Ekampala wonna that nga bwe mulaba nyumye, this is a boutique eri awo Kabumbi Linda's Boutique musobola okujjayo ne mufuna akagoye nga kano nga wenyumye nammwe ne munyirira naye mu making sure mwagale nnyo environment yammwe mugiddizeewo nga weebawa emmere nga weebawa omukka gwe mussa oba amazzi ge munywa nammwe mugiwa ekirungi ekisaana temugyonoona temugirwanyisa era temugitta kuba bwe mugitta nayo ejja balwanyisa ebate. So my people tujja kubeera wano ku TV wano buli lwa Sunday okuva ku ssaawa 9 ogw'olweggulo paka ssaawa 10 okubayigiriza okubalaga ekituufu ky'olina okukola olwaniridde otya environment yo oba ogiddiza otya. Tubaagala nnyo era let's meet again next Sunday 3 to 4 p.m. Good evening.